Now, you're about to hear something that almost makes me vomit. It is the most un-American garbage I think I have ever heard. This goes beyond psycho talk. I've called this guy out on the radio many times before, Hugh Hewitt. He's writing in the Washington Examiner. He tells readers, don't buy GM or Chrysler cars. That's right. He says there's only one answer for conservatives angry at President Obama and the government for getting involved in the automobile industry. He says boycott. Hewitt, who broadcasts on the right-wing Salem radio network, wrote, I won't buy a socialist car, which means I won't be buying a GM or Chrysler. He goes on to say it doesn't matter if they build a good product. He says, I won't be visiting a GM or a Chrysler lot no matter the product offered. The very idea of a socialized American car company ought to cause millions of Americans to reject the idea of doing their car shopping at those venues. Buy Ford, buy Toyota, buy anything. Conservatives, are you folks out of your mind? Do you know how many Americans have lost their jobs in manufacturing? Do you know how many American families are being affected? Their livelihoods are being drilled because of this recession. And what do? They push back on the American families that are doing the absolute best they can to build a great product. And you conservative talkers, and I mean there's a collection of them on the Salem radio network. I mean, there's Hugh Hewitt, there's Prager, Medved is in this crowd as well. We have him on the program from time to time because he calms down and gives us a thoughtful idea from time to time. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of Americans, and this is what they have. They openly say, if you're angry, no, I think the word is if you hate Obama. If you hate Obama, if you can't stand the fact that he's having success as a president, if you just hate the fact that this guy has got a 60+% approval rating, he's trying to save American industry, if you hate him that much, then don't buy a GM and don't buy a Chrysler. Now, the thing that bothers me, this is the crowd that was on the president because he didn't wear a lapel pin. This is the crowd that wrapped themselves in the flag and said that the liberals weren't American. Liberals are trying to do everything they possibly can in this country to save American industry. But this is now part of the failure talk. That is the most un-American garbage. You know, I'm going to ask the listeners across the country to the Salem radio network, why don't you just boycott them? Prove to me that you're an American. Prove to me that you really believe that it's good for a family of four to make $60,000 a year. But we'll take the product away. We'll take their health care away. We'll take their dental, their vision, and everything else, and we'll side with them. And by the way, they're advertising to American listeners, don't buy it. What do you say we just kick the American worker in the teeth? What do you say we just give all the money to Wall Street? Let's just take their health care, let's take their education, let's take their jobs. Let's just genuflect to the Hugh Hewitts of the world. This is what we voted against, these psycho talkers that are out there. Virg Bernero, you can say it better than I can, but I almost feel like I'm at the end of my rope. I know where Americans are. And you know what we're going to do, folks? We're going to take the Ed Show on the road. I can't take this anymore in the studio in New York. I got to get out with the people because I know that if we put the microphone and the camera in front of Americans, they will be saying, don't buy GM, don't buy Chrysler. They're going to be saying, give us a chance the way you gave Wall Street a chance. Give us a chance to prove that we can provide and we can compete against foreign manufacturers. What we did, we gave a boatload of money to Wall Street, and then we put a gun to the head of American manufacturers. Virg, I want you to help me in a boycott of the Salem radio network in your state of Michigan. Can we work this thing out?
Absolutely. And Ed, I couldn't say it any better than you did. You're phenomenal. And I certainly want to welcome you to Lansing. I hope you'll come to Lansing, Michigan, to Detroit, to Flint.
We are going to Lansing. If I have to personally buy the satellite truck, we are going to Lansing to tell the story of the American people who are home tonight, going to homeless clinics, going to food banks. Are they not going to food banks in your city? Is that what's happening?
Oh, they are, absolutely. And we have a mobile food pantry that we've extended to the community. The faith community has banded together. The community has responded beautifully, Ed, to come together to answer this need. But there's no question about the disconnect. I mean, the disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street, and this guy's a part of it. And, you know, he doesn't mention socialized banks. Apparently, socialized banks are okay with them. But socialized, and this whole boogeyman term, you know, the right wing is big on this. Wall Street is big on this. They can't hit Obama with much, so they try to do this socialized thing, that if we support an industry, then it's socialized. You know, the medical reform is socialized medicine. We're supposed to be afraid of it. I see socialized medicine every time I go to the emergency room.
Well,
you know,
let me just throw this in about health care, because that's my issue. The righties are saying, we don't want the government between you and your doctor. Folks, guess who's in between you right now? Somebody who's looking for a profit, and that might be an insurance agency and an insurance industry and a CEO who is milking consumers for millions of dollars and denying claims day after day on hardworking Americans. And you know what the conservatives say? Well, don't buy GM or Chrysler.
Yeah,
you know, it all fits. It all fits in here.
That is sick and obscene. That is it is exactly what you said, un-American. You talk about self-defeating. You talk about an attack on middle America. These people have been through enough. These hard-working Americans that we see, like here at Lansing, that make the Cadillac CTS Motor Trend Car of the Year. We make great vehicles. We have productive people all across this country that used to be in industries, that used to make furniture, that used to make TVs, that used to make appliances. Their jobs have been outsourced. The steel workers, their jobs have been outsourced and offshored. The American dream has been offshored, and yet Wall Street continues to prop up this free trade and now say that the companies that have been saved should be punished. You know, the last time the Chrysler investment paid off years ago, and it will pay off again. Give Americans a chance to be productive. We have the most productive workers in the world. You know that, and you appreciate that. But Wall Street doesn't. They're a bunch of paper shufflers, and they make more money when they offshore the production. They offshore the pollution and the production. The pollution comes back. We've got to put the P back in GDP, gross domestic product. Americans know that. We've got to have Americans working. But Wall Street, they're happy if things are offshored, because they can exploit the people and exploit the land. They don't have to deal with environmental regulations. They don't have to deal with any unions, standards, an 8-hour workday, things like that. They can go overseas and work them any way they want. They don't mind making deals with petty dictators or big-time dictators overseas. We've got to promote the American way. I say stand up, Ed. Let's get these folks at Salem and other places. You know, if you're going to wear the flag, it stands for something. You know, it stands for democracy. It stands for free speech and free association. And we should be promoting friendly countries, democratic countries that have real fair trade. We can trade on a fair basis with countries like Canada.
Verge, I'm going to be in your town of Lansing, Michigan. I can't take it anymore. We've got to get Americans on here who are going through it, because there's obviously a disconnect. It is horribly unfair that someone would take the opportunity of freedom of speech. You know, we just celebrated, a day where a lot of Americans died, June 6th, 1944, the unselfish generation. They hit the beach. They died for America. Do you think they died because they wanted the American worker in decades to come to fail?
This is the thing, Ed.
Do you think that's what that was all about?
No, they fought for the American way.
Americans, you have to listen to how psycho and how anti-American these conservatives are. They've gone off the deep end. Verge, I'm running short on time tonight. I can't have enough time on the air tonight. I love you, brother, because you're a fighter for American families.
We'd love to have you.
And we are coming to Lansing, Michigan, and we're going to tell the story of the American people, my man. We have to bring that to the screen. Do they really feel, you know, that maybe just shut it all down?
They deserve it. Thank you so much,
Ed. All right, my man. Thanks a lot. Newt Gingrich, who nobody likes or cares about, is going after the president, calling himself a citizen of the world. President Reagan did the same thing. That's how confused they are. The Newtster, the low-rated Newtster. That's coming up next on The Ed Show. Stay with us.